Hello, wonderful listeners, and welcome to the Learn English with Emma and Jones. I'm Jones, here for our special weekend session. How are you feeling this Saturday?
Hi, Jones. It's so nice to join you in this gentle weekend space. I think these slower-paced episodes really help listeners relax and absorb English more naturally, especially after a busy week. It feels like taking a deep breath, doesn't it?
Absolutely, there's no rush here. Our focus is on slow, soft, English no pressure, no grammar drills, just friendly conversation. This approach is especially helpful for learners who might feel overwhelmed with traditional lessons.
It's true. Studies show that language learners often retain more when they're relaxed. Creating a calm atmosphere lets new vocabulary and phrases sink in more deeply, almost like letting tea steep slowly for the best flavor.
Speaking of steeping, let's talk about mornings. I mentioned today I stayed in bed until nearly 9. Sometimes a slow start is just what we need. How do you think morning routines affect language learning, especially on weekends?
Great question. A gentle morning routine can make your brain more receptive. When you wake up slowly, your mind isn't bombarded with stress. Instead, you're in a state where you can pay attention to new sounds and words almost like a computer booting up calmly.
I love that analogy. It's like giving our minds time to load before jumping into tasks. And it mirrors the way I describe foggy, that feeling when your thoughts are still waking up, similar to a fog making things outside blurry.
Exactly. And for language learners, recognizing these metaphors is helpful. They make abstract feelings concrete, and understanding them brings you closer to thinking in English, not just translating.
Let's shift gears to a common part of life, dealing with pain. Today, my wisdom tooth was hurting. For learners, it's a chance to expand vocabulary like ache, sore, and inflammation. Why do you think real-life examples help with language retention?
Using real-life situations anchors new words in memory. If someone has experienced tooth pain, words like throbbing or swelling become meaningful. It's much easier to remember wisdom tooth when you connect it to your own experiences.
And I always explain that wisdom tooth sounds much more elegant than it feels. It's an example of how English uses poetic language for everyday things. Have you noticed other body-related phrases that can be confusing?
Definitely. Expressions like butterflies in your stomach or a lump in your throat add imagery. Explaining them helps learners understand both literal and figurative language, which is key for fluency.
Moving along, let's talk about sensory descriptions. I mentioned feeling the quiet, seeing fog, and tasting tea. How does using sensory language enhance English learning?
Sensory words make stories vivid. When you say the world felt slow or the tea steeped, listeners can imagine and feel those moments. It's like painting with words, making English memorable and emotionally engaging.
Exactly. And it's not just about understanding, it's about feeling. For example, describing breakfast as gentle and comforting adds emotional color. Do you have tips for learners to practice sensory language?
Yes. Encourage learners to describe their own mornings using all 5 senses. Even writing one sentence for each sense builds confidence. Plus, it's a fun way to notice the world in English.
Let's pause for a vocabulary deep dive. I explained steep and foggy, 2 words with both literal and figurative meanings. Why is understanding these flexible words important for learners?
Flexible words help learners move beyond basic translation. For example, steep isn't just for tea. You can have a steep learning curve. And foggy can describe both weather and unclear thoughts. Recognizing these uses boosts comprehension.
Great point. It's like giving learners extra tools in their language toolkit. Context clues are so important. How can listeners practice noticing context in everyday English?
Listening to podcasts, reading stories, or even watching movies with subtitles exposes learners to words in context. They can keep a notebook of flexible words and jot down different situations where they're used.
Let's talk about food. Because of my sore tooth, I chose oatmeal with banana soft and easy. Food vocabulary is a window into culture and comfort. How can learners benefit from exploring these everyday words?
Food words often carry cultural meaning. For instance, oatmeal might be comfort food in one country but unfamiliar in another. Discussing breakfast habits is a great way to learn adjectives like crunchy, smooth, or warm, and to compare cultural routines.
That's a good point. Plus, Choosing gentle foods connects with describing feelings both physical and emotional. I encourage listeners to share their own comfort foods in English. It's a relatable, practical exercise.
Absolutely. Even making a photo diary of meals with simple descriptions builds vocabulary. It also makes language learning more personal and enjoyable.
Let's transition to the next part of my day walking to the dentist. Everyday routines are full of useful English. For example, I passed a grocery shop and greeted the vendor. How can learners turn daily walks into language practice?
Every walk is a vocabulary lesson in disguise. Learners can name things they see: sidewalk, breeze, ripe bananas. Even practicing pronunciation, like with vegetables, helps. Mimicking natural speech patterns makes conversations smoother.
Exactly. And noticing how words are pronounced in real life, not just in textbooks, is key. For instance, vegetables is usually pronounced with just 3 syllables. Vegetables.
Right. Hearing these shortcuts in context prevents misunderstandings and boosts listening skills. Learners can even record themselves and compare to native speakers for improvement.
Now, let's discuss the dentist appointment. Visiting a clinic can make anyone nervous, and it's a common scenario where learners need practical English. What are some key phrases and strategies for communicating during medical visits?
First, learning to describe pain. It hurts here. It's sore. There's swelling is essential. Also, practicing responses like, I'm a little nervous, or can you explain that again? Empowers learners to express needs clearly.
And understanding terms like inflammation is crucial. When we break down medical vocabulary, inflammation means swelling, redness, or pain. It demystifies the experience. Do you have advice for reducing anxiety during these conversations?
Yes. Preparing a list of phrases beforehand and rehearsing with a friend can build confidence. Also, remembering that it's okay to ask the professional to speak slowly or repeat instructions makes the visit less stressful.
After my appointment, I walked home slowly and found peace in little things: the sun, a quiet park bench, a cup of chamomile tea. How can learners use everyday relaxation to practice English?
Relaxing moments are perfect for learning calming vocabulary: soothing, gentle, cozy. They also provide chances to reflect and journal in English, describing what makes them feel at ease. It's a double benefit: relaxation and language growth.
I also mentioned drifting off or falling asleep slowly. Phrasal verbs like this add color to English. How can learners become more comfortable with these expressions?
Exposure is key. Reading stories, listening to podcasts, and practicing speaking with native speakers helps. Keeping a list of new phrasal verbs and using them in sentences builds confidence over time.
To wrap up, my Saturday wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. I want listeners to remember, you don't have to understand every word. Just being present and enjoying the process is enough. How can learners maintain a growth mindset in English?
Celebrating small wins is vital. Maybe today you learned a new word or understood a phrase. That's progress. Research shows that learners who focus on improvement, not perfection, build skills more quickly and enjoy the journey.
Exactly. Bit by bit, word by word, you grow. We're here every weekend with gentle talks, and Aaron and Evan return on weekdays. This peaceful space is for you to unwind and learn at your own pace.
And remember, language learning is like making tea slow, steady, and rewarding. Just keep listening, practicing, and enjoying the process. That's how fluency is brewed.